Welcome, everybody, to Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. I'm one half of your host, Santi. Today, we are going to be talking about the top 5 WWE superstars who have never won a Royal Rumble, ergo should have won a Royal Rumble. Steve, are you ready with your 5?
Yeah, man. I think this is we're on the road to the Royal Rumble. I think we're a couple of weeks away here, and I think this is one of the best ones that we can do because we can acknowledge some of the greats that never got to point at that sign and staple themselves as the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, the list that we have, like, to me, this is a combination of legendary superstars who never got the chance to win a Rumble, but I also have some on here that are superstars who should have won a very specific Rumble as well. That's how I made my top 5. So why don't I kick us off with one of those? I have Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, one of the most decorated WWE superstars and wrestlers on the planet. Of course, now Bryan Danielson over in AEW, but no one disagrees that he should have 100% won the 2014 Royal Rumble. He was the hottest act in wrestling at the time. It needed to be Daniel Bryan, and that's the one where we got Batista.
Yeah, it's crazy, Santi, because with that one there, I remember when he hit the ground, the crowd went silent. It was almost as silent as it went when Taker lost the streak. It went so quiet in that arena, and then they had lost the crowd for the rest of the event. And it was one of those ones where you're like, huh, well, that's bad. That's typical bad Vince booking. So,
oh, hang on. I think you and I are actually mixing up Rumbles. So I was talking about the Rumble that he wasn't even in, that Batista won. You're talking about the one right after, after he had to relinquish his WWE Championship. Both valid, both totally valid. What's hilarious about the one that you're talking about, when he hit the ground, he only lasted like 5 minutes in the Rumble too, which is nutty. Do you know who the next superstar that came out was when he got eliminated?
No.
It was Goldust. Do you know what read on the Titantron? Shattered Dreams. As it was the cruelest, either intentional or unintentional joke ever, because it really was shattered dreams of what WWE fans wanted. So yeah, you can actually have them in both, because the one that I was talking about is Hot Yeselmania, right?
Yeah.
And then the one you're talking about was actually his return after the injury, setting up for WrestleMania 31. So both totally valid. Daniel Bryan should have won one of those. It's a shame that he didn't. Next.
Yeah. All right, Santi, I'm going to go with the women first. Even though the Women's Rumble has not been around that long, there has been a staple in virtually every single Women's Royal Rumble since its inception, and that is the boss, the new CEO, Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks has been a staple of the 4 horsewomen in the women's evolution since, you know, the NXT days, and coming up into Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, and creating an absolute aura about herself and becoming one of the biggest female superstars of this generation, quite frankly, maybe of all time. But she never got that final Rumble push. She was always so close, or she was eliminated in some of the cruelest fashions. Sasha Banks is one of those ones that when you go back and you look at her list of accomplishments, the Royal Rumble not being on there is absolutely cruel. It's bankruptcy. It
is criminal. Again, it hasn't been around that long, but of the people who have won it, there are some that I have Sasha Banks over, and Sasha Banks should definitely have a win here. For my next one, I've got Kurt Angle. Broken freaking neck Kurt Angle. This one isn't, he should have won this Rumble. He should have won a Rumble. There were about 5 different Rumbles that Kurt Angle could have been a part of, that he should have absolutely 100% without a shadow of a doubt won. I think he should have won over Austin when Austin won his 3rd one. I think it needed to be Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was white hot. that was the one, not that he needed to be cemented as a main eventer. I think he really did it on his own with the amazing in-ring work, with the hilarious character work. Kurt Angle worked his way to the main event, but that is a glaring gap in his trophy case and at his house. And if I had to pick one that he should have won 2001, and not just 2001, he could have won like 5 different ones. Like I said, it's a travesty that Kurt Angle has not won a Royal Rumble. It's really the only thing that he hasn't won. Other than that, he's won everything. I mean, for God's sake, he's a Hall of Famer. Should have been Kurt Angle.
It's kind of funny because you and I are on the same timeline with my second pick. Virtually, this man has won everything in professional wrestling. I'm not talking WWE. I'm not talking AEW. I'm not talking New Japan. I'm talking everywhere. And it is the man that can change a gimmick left, right, and center and recreate himself every time. It is Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has been around and established himself in this business, and the Royal Rumble is one of those staples to say, you know what, you're the guy that we're putting all our money on to lead us into WrestleMania and make it a success. There are so many Rumbles that you could have picked that Jericho should have been at least in the final 2, let alone the final 4, and the man still never even tasted that, you know, the glory of being able to say, wow, I outlasted 30 men in a 65-minute battle royal. The fact that Chris Jericho has not won a Royal Rumble is mind-boggling to me. Like, he's been in so many, and like, he's in so many characters. He's been so hot. He's been so over in so many ways. And it's just one of those ones where it's just like, oh, Jericho's music, he's not winning. Like, you know, so that's, for me, for Jericho not to have it, it's criminal.
He should have won the one where he came back voiceless with the jacket. The one that Sheamus won, that's the one that Chris Jericho 100% should have won. Yes, he did go on to headline WrestleMania in one of the 3 main events where he had a WWE Championship match versus CM Punk. Sheamus went on to beat Daniel Bryan in 28 seconds. And then, of course, we had the Once in a Lifetime versus The Rock. But that's the one that Chris Jericho should have won. If you think about it, like, why give that to Sheamus if all you were going to do is have him go to WrestleMania and win in 28 seconds? It feels like a waste there. It should have gone to Chris Jericho, the Ayatollah of rock and roll. I am the best in the world at what I do. I'm with you. It should have gone to Chris Jericho. My next one here, Steve, I'm not the biggest fan of him these days, but CM Punk. CM Punk is one of those guys that has, I mean, the only multi-time Money in the Bank winner. I know The Miz has held it multiple times, same with Edge, but they didn't win it twice. They just got the briefcase out of shenanigans. But CM Punk, especially when he was the leader of the New Nexus, should have gone on to win the Royal Rumble. The Miz should have lost the title in the go home pay-per-view to John Cena, and at Mania 27, rather than having that dud pay-per-view, that dud main event of John Cena versus The Miz, we should have had John Cena versus CM Punk.
I think CM Punk has spoke at length about that exact build and exactly how that should have planned out. You just said it word for word how he said it. It should have run that way, but obviously creative had different ideas for him. So yeah, CM Punk, again, another one that you're like, wow, like out of all the accomplishments and all the things they've done in professional wrestling, the Rumble is that one thing that's eluded.
And if not a match with John Cena, they had it set up there for him to be Edge's retirement match, because this is the one that Alberto Del Rio won. And he ended up going to have a match with Edge that he ended up ultimately losing. I think that, granted, Del Rio was hot. Like, he was the heel of 2011 and 2012. But that should have been CM Punk's spot right there.
Yeah. Santi, I'm going with a way back here, just because when they were in WWF, this man was as hot as they come, especially through the Intercontinental title run that he had against Shawn Michaels. Scott Hall. Scott Hall, granted, the man never even got to win a world title.
Yeah, a lot of nevers with him, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of nevers, but I think he's one of those ones that before he made the jump to WCW, he was so hot and he was so over with the WWF crowd that he could have easily won as a heel and brought real heel heat into a WrestleMania main event. Scott Hall is, you know, a multi-time. No, is he a multi-time Hall of Famer? Yeah, he's a multi-time Hall of Famer. He should. There, let alone not winning a world title, the man should at least gotten a good run at a Royal Rumble.
I 100% agree. I mean, one of the greatest intercontinental champions of all time. It just seemed like a natural progression for him. And yeah, like back then it was tough to come by real heels that weren't these gimmicky characters. To be fair, they tried to give him a gimmicky character and he made it cool. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a rare thing to have a cool, bad heel like that people could potentially get behind or potentially fear, or could actually be a genuine threat to a world champion like a Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. All right. My next one is more so one I honestly don't want him to. Never wanted him to win it. I never wanted him to win it, but it's one that I have on here because of all of the stuff that he did in the Rumble. And I have Kane. Like, let's not forget that this is the man that held the record for most eliminations until they decided to push Roman Reigns to the stratosphere. Like, a lot of people actually had this record being one of those records that's never broken. He eliminated more than 1/3 of the Royal Rumble, eliminating 11 people. Yes, one of those was Jim Carrey. Was it Jim Carrey? No, not Jim Carrey.
Pete Rose, was it?
No, it was the host of Wheel of Fortune. I just can't remember his name now. Drew Carey. I was like, saying, no, there's no way it was Jim freaking Carrey. Drew Carey. Yeah, all of his accomplishments. I think for a while he held the record for the most Rumble appearances, most minutes in a not in a Royal Rumble, but in the Royal Rumble as a whole through his entire career. And he had the most eliminations in a single Rumble, most eliminations in Rumble history, and never really came closer than that one where he was in the final two. I can't remember who it was. Who he was in the final. It might have been The Rock. I can't quite remember who he was in the final two with. Might have been, I can't quite remember. Either way, Kane should have won the Royal Rumble. As much as I was never a big fan of him, he was super hot in 2003. Unfortunately, there was somebody hotter, which was Brock Lesnar. If Brock Lesnar didn't exist then, I could have seen Kane, the Big Red Machine, winning that one.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where he's always going to outperform everyone because he's the big man. But similar to Andre the Giant, who never won a Rumble either, he's always going to be that staple in the ring, but he's never going to get that final push. Kane had all these records, like you said, but it's just one of those ones where, like, where do you go with a gimmick like that winning the Rumble? He was so good because he could carry a storyline without that title of Royal Rumble winner. So it was just, I think I see where they're coming from with that, but still, it's unfortunate that it's not part of his accolades.
Yeah, for somebody like, if you want to call Shawn Michaels Mr. WrestleMania, you could call Kane Mr. Royal Rumble. But hey, just like Shawn Michaels, he lost like every WrestleMania match he was ever a part of. So
that's true. That is very true. All right, Santi, for my second last one, I got the man who I think should have been the actual face of the golden era, and that's the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Savage, for me, has always been better than Hulk Hogan in every single way, shape, or form. He had a better character. He had a better gimmick. It's just WWE saw money in Hulk Hogan, and Hulk had that persona backstage that if Hulk asked for it, Hulk got it. And I found Macho Man to be one of the best performers in ring and outside of the ring. His technical ability was incredible. That match against Steamboat, what was that, WrestleMania 3, was so just, you can, if you want to go watch a technical masterpiece, go watch.
That's the first greatest match of all time. That's the first greatest match of all time. Exactly.
It's one of the best I have ever seen. And Macho Man Randy Savage is so heavily underrated and was so underutilized by the WWF that I really think like he could have gone to the stratosphere and back if he actually got a Rumble win. Like, to be fair, I don't know why Randy Savage didn't win the first Royal Rumble and why it was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It just made no sense. Yeah. So for me, Criminal. Criminal is my word of the podcast. Criminal. Savage has not got one.
Fair enough. I think my last one here is more so, man, this would have been a good feel-good moment, more so than somebody who had the right stuff to win the Royal Rumble. I think I could pinpoint one that he could have won going into WrestleMania 16. I'm going to go with Mick Foley, and I ideally would have been the face of Cactus Jack winning the Rumble for him. I mean, there really wasn't anybody that was that hot at that time. I think Stone Cold was injured. That's why he missed that WrestleMania, I think. So it was a good time to give Mick Foley his just desserts. Like, hey, thank you for all your years of murdering yourself for us. Here's the Royal Rumble. One of those, because, you know, it's not a crazy ask, because it feels like the WWE has done that for him before by giving him the world title, right? Like, hey, here is our recognition of all of your hard work over the years. Just understand you're never going to be the top guy. And I think Mick Foley kind of understood that. But I do believe that we had a perfect instance for him to win the Royal Rumble, where there was nobody else that was really white hot that should have won it. So I'm going to go with Mick Foley, ideally a Cactus Jack version of Mick Foley.
Hey, the man did get 3 chances in a Rumble. So like, if you blow 3 chances, then like, come on, man. No, but I agree with you. Like, with that time frame and really not having anyone to go and grab that proverbial brass ring, I think Mick Foley would have been the perfect pick for that time frame, and especially for that Rumble. My final one, Santi, and I think he would have been slated in the coming years to actually win a Rumble, but because of his unfortunate early passing, Eddie Guerrero, just for what he was in the ring, outside of the ring, on the mic, and just like his demeanor and his skill, Eddie Guerrero, I think, could have been an excellent Rumble winner and been able to carry a great story to a Mania. And I really do think I think that whole Rey Mysterio winning the Rumble and the title was actually worked for Eddie. I think that was supposed to be.
You want to hear what that main event was supposed to be before, and you're going to jizz your pants? It was supposed to be Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels for the WWE Championship. Isn't that depressing?
My point exactly.
Yeah.
My point exactly. Eddie winning a Rumble and being able to go to a main event like that. I'm sorry. You know I'm not the biggest Kurt Angle fan, but you put those 3 in a WrestleMania main event, could have been the greatest triple threat main event of all time. And just technically, you wouldn't even need a commentator for that. You just say, let him go. Shut up. Let him go and just let them tell the story. Yeah. So I think if it wasn't for his untimely death and passing, I think Eddie Guerrero would have at least gotten 1 Rumble, which I would have been so happy. But Eddie Guerrero not getting a Rumble at all is just so depressing.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say criminal. You've only said it 17,000 times.
Well, it's Eddie Guerrero. That's just depressing.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, like you can see that there was kind of like a scramble to do. Okay, what the hell do we do with Shawn Michaels? Because that was the plan, to do some sort of work between him and Eddie, and that's why they tossed him in with Vince McMahon's just like, beat the shit out of me. All right, it's gonna be Shawn Michaels versus Vince McMahon, and of course Shawn Michaels made it into a hilarious, awesome slapstick match. So it is a travesty that we never got to see what could have been arguably the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. But folks, thank you very much for listening to this episode of Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. Welcome to Rumble season, baby. This is the best time to be a WWE fan, and this is really the start of it. We're excited to be able to invite you to our live stream of the Royal Rumble over on Rumble and Locals. All of those links will be down in the description below. You can support us through a premium subscription on Locals. That is completely optional, but it helps keeps the light on and helps keeps the microphone on. Again, all of the links down in the description below. You can go ahead and leave a like on this video, a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps us out tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. We thank you very much for listening to this episode of Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast, and take care.